Okay, we're going to go over the graph of a function. This is Chapter 2, Section 2. And I'm just going to do a couple problems here. And we'll go over some of the graphs in class. Okay. The first one we're going to do is this function. And we're just going to answer basic questions. So the first question we're going to ask is, does this point here, let's say -1, 2, does it lie on this graph? So when you graph this function, will this lie on the graph? And the only thing you have to do is remember this is your x, this is your y, and you just want to see if it's true. So in this case, this is really your y. In this case, our y is 2. So we're going to write, let me erase that, does 2 equal, and then we're going to substitute all x. Every time there's an x, we're going to substitute the -1. And like I said in class before, what I usually do is I don't put the x. I put parentheses like that, and then I dump in the -1. So I plug in the -1, and then I want to see if this is true. Remember PEMDAS, so we have to square this first. -1 squared is 1, so you do this part first. So that's 2 times 1 is 2, minus a negative is going to be +1, then -1. And that does indeed equal 2. So yes, it's the point on the graph. So that's the first question we ask. The next question is if x is -2. So basically they're just asking you if x is -2, see if I can get that on there, then what is my y? And we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to say y equals 2, and I'm going to put parentheses everywhere there's an x, and I'm going to dump in -2 and evaluate, and we're going to get 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 minus 1, and so that's going to equal 9. So y equals 9, and you put the 9, that's your y. So y equals 9. Okay, the next question they ask is if f of x equals -1, then what does x equal? So basically, again, they're saying if y is -1, then what is x? So I'm going to use my same equation. You can look on the other slide, but if y, so this is my y, is -1, then what is x? So this is 2x squared minus x minus 1. And in this case, since it's a quadratic, we're going to set this to 0. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Add 1, plus 1, plus 1, and we get 0 equals 2x squared minus x. Now, we're going to factor this. And so anytime you have a square, you're trying to solve for x, think factor, equals pull out of x, and you get 2x minus 1. So we're going to take each piece and just set it to 0. So in this case, it says x equals 0. And then we're going to take this piece and set it to 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. Add the 1, divide by 2, so x equals 1/2. So when x is when y is -1, we have 2 answers, and we can write it like this. We're going to have 0, -1, and x can be 1/2 when y is -1. So we have 2 solutions. Okay, the next question they're going to ask you is what is the domain? Again, we went over this. So if we have f of x equals 2x squared minus x minus 1, the domain is going to be all real numbers. There's no fractions here, there's no radicals, so we're just going to write it as x such that x is any real number, or you can write x such that x is any real number, which I don't like to do because this takes too long. And we're going to use set notation on the test and on this. Okay, the next question they ask lists the X-Intercepts, if any, of the graph. So the X-Intercepts, of course, when you're graphing a quadratic in general, the X-Intercepts general are when y is 0. So all you do is you set your equation to 0. We have 0 equals 2x squared minus x minus 1, and we factor. So we know it's 2x and x, and we know it's 1 and 1. And which one's negative? This one's going to be negative, and this one's going to be positive. Then you set each piece to equal 0. So we have 2x plus 1 equals 0. So x would be negative 1/2. And in this case, set this to 0. And it's clearly x equals 1. And the way we want to write this is when y is 0. Whoops, not when y is 0. When y is 0, what is x? Well, it's either negative 1/2 or x is 1. So anytime you see a 0 in your ordered pair, that means it's an intercept. If it's with the y, that means it's an x-intercept. If it's x, it's with the y-intercept. Okay, the next one is lists the y-intercepts. That one's a little easier. That means x has to be 0. So when x is 0, what is y? So all we're going to do is just say y equals 2. I'm going to put my little parentheses here, and I'm going to dump in 0, and clearly y equals negative 1. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Okay, we're going to do another problem, go a little faster, and it's going to be a rational. And this is f of x equals x squared plus 2, oopsie, come on, pen, work, over x plus 4. Okay, the first question is no, I don't want this one, sorry. Yeah, x plus 2, I wrote it down wrong, sorry guys. So it's x squared plus 2 over x minus 6. So the first question is 3, 14 on the graph. So 3, 14. And so all we're going to do is, like last time, we're going to say, does 14 equal 3 squared plus 2 over 3 minus 6? And we get basically we're going to get negative 5/3. Again, I'm going faster, so you're asking if that's true, and the answer is no, because this does not equal 14. Okay, the next question they ask is, if x is 4, what is f of x? So we're just going to plug in 4. If x is 4, then what is f of x? F of x is our y. So I'm going to plug in 4 squared plus 2 over 4 minus 6, and we get negative 3. So we get 4, negative 3, and this point is on the graph. And the next question, they ask if y, or f of x, is 2, then what is x? So we set this to 2 equals x plus 2 over x minus 6. I'm going to put my 2 in fraction form and cross multiply. So I get 2x minus 12 equals x plus 2. And I'm going to solve. So I'm going to basically subtract the x from both sides. And I'm going to add the 12. I'm going to do it all together. So basically I get x equals 14. So when y is 2, x was 14. And basically, those would have canceled and those would have canceled. Okay. The next question is, what is the domain of f? So we have y equals x plus 2 over x minus 6. In this case, we do have an irrational expression. So we know we want it to be all real numbers, but clearly it can't be 6. So it can be anything but 6. And that's how you would write it. Because if you plug in 6 here, you're going to get something. That's something being that over 0, which is impossible. Okay, and list the X-intercepts. Alright, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to let y be 0. So we're going to set 0 equals x plus 2 over x minus 6. And we're going to cross multiply. We can put that in fraction form. So we're going to get 0 equals x plus 2. So x is negative 2. This problem is important because we'll be going over this a lot in chapter 3. So basically, when y is 0, x is negative 2. Okay. The next question is we did the domain, and we have to do the y-intercepts. And so all we're going to do on the y-intercepts is let x be 0. So I'm going to just plug in x. And that's clearly negative 1/3. So when x is 0, y is negative 1/3. And that's all.